Hi, I'm Andy Cohen. I'm a C6 incomplete quadriplegic. When I was 16, I was coming home from school. I was a passenger in a car, and my friend was driving on the freeway, and he lost control of the car. Hit a tree in the median, and it made the car flip, and every time it flipped, the roof came down on my head and broke my neck. That's what allowed me to play quad rugby. Rugby was really good because it just kind of like if you've seen the movie, there's a guy named Keith who's a new injury, and Zupan goes out there and kind of recruits him and shows him the ropes, and that's kind of how I got into the sport the same way.
Yeah, getting into the film, how the filmmakers come to
The film actually started, there was a small article in the Phoenix newspaper from Scott and I, and Dana Shapiro, who was a writer at the time for Spin Magazine, saw it and actually pitched it to Maxim, who took it, and it turned into an article in Maxim. And then when he was over in Sweden doing the article, he decided to turn it into a film. And they followed us for 2.5 years, and it's been everything we hoped it could have been in the film. We hoped it would turn out like it did, and just be atypical and representation of people in wheelchairs, and it is.
Okay, let's go around first to introduce everybody.
All right. I'm Scott Hogsett. I play wheelchair rugby for Team USA, and my club team is the Phoenix Heat. I'm a C5-6 quadriplegic. I got, as Andy said, I got introduced into the movie by Dana Shapiro. He gave me a call on the phone and proposed a project, and I was all excited for it. And I was hoping it'd turn into be something as big as it is, and it did. I have a lot of people approach us about doing different types of stories, whether it's news or documentaries, and they never seem to pan out. They always seem to be a disabled story or a pity story. And Dana and Henry turned Murderball into a life story as well as a sports story, and it made me feel normal again, and it also made me look kind of cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Describe those numbers that you guys described yourself in. What do they mean?
The classifications?
Yeah, exactly.
My classification is a 1.0.
Hold the microphone down just a little bit.
Down.
To your face.
Okay. My classification is a 1.0, and what I mean by classification is that each player is assigned a number, and when you put the players on the court, which there's 4 of us, the number has to equal up to 8. And my number 1, I'm given a number 1 by the amount of function I have left after I've been injured. As you look at Mark's hands and upper body is very strong, and he's got quite a bit of function. He's the high end of the quadriplegics that play rugby. He's a 3.0. Andy is the middle. He's a 2.0, and he's got a little less function than Mark, but he's got pretty good function. As you can tell by me, I have very low function in my hands and upper body, and so I'm the low end. I'm a 1.0. And for example, a lineup would be a 3-2-2-1. And you add up all those, and that's an 8.0 lineup. You can go under 8, but you can't go over 8. And what else would you like me to answer?
How did you get hurt?
No.
Experience of playing rugby for the first time.
Yeah. I got injured about 13 years ago. Freak accident out of a lake cabin. A kid was trying to pick a fight with me. It's kind of a long story. He was trying to pick a fight with me, and I wasn't paying attention. And he picked me up and threw me off the deck, and I fell 10 feet and broke my neck. Shortly thereafter, I rehabbed for about 6 months, and then about 2 months after that, I was introduced into the sport of wheelchair rugby by a therapist, and it was just a perfect fit for me. I fell in love with it right away. I just like all the competitive play and the aggressive violence in wheelchairs.
Do you think you ever get hurt in wheelchairs?
Just like any other sport, we have small injuries, nothing real severe. We have cuts, scrapes, concussions, bumps on our elbows, and every once in a while you get someone needs to have surgery on a shoulder or something like that. But just like any other sport, you know. We train hard. We're strong athletes, and our body performs, and hopefully it makes it through the whole season, and we have no breakdowns. I'll let Mark jump in there.
My name is Mark Zupan. I am a C6, C7 quadriplegic. I was hurt 11 years ago. I got thrown out of the back of a pickup truck into a canal where I spent about 13 and a half hours hanging onto a branch until somebody found me. I was introduced to wheelchair rugby by a therapist, probably about a month into rehab. It was a recreational therapist. You have recreational therapist, occupational therapist, and physical therapist. The rec therapist came in and said, "Okay, guys, today we got something new for you. We're going to play a game called rugby." We looked at each other and we said, "Rugby? Okay. Well, how's it play?" It's pretty much crash derby with, in wheelchairs. So I took that and enjoyed it. Didn't start really competitively playing until, I'd say, 1996, when I moved to Atlanta. Another therapist said, my boyfriend, he plays rugby. I think you'll like it. Like, yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with it. Let's go try it. And ever since then, I've been playing.
Describe the game comes across on the film really vibrant. Like it could actually be telecast or something. Describe what it's like to play it.
It's neat because it's a combination of many different sports. It's not, it has some aspects of able-bodied rugby, but it has a lot of angles of soccer. It's kind of like hockey and just the hitting. It's like basketball and rules types. But, I mean, if you think about it, where else can you hit somebody as hard as you possibly can and get away with it? So it's chair-on-chair contact. You want to hit him as hard as you can. It's fun. I mean, he ends up in your lap, then great. I guess it's a release in some aspects, but then again, it's just the competitive edge. It's just like being able-bodied. I played college soccer before I was hurt, and this pretty much picks up exactly where that left off.
What's the great thing about the competition in terms of winning? What do the scores tend to be like?
Usually they're in mid-30s to low 40s. So it's definitely an offensive game. I mean, you're playing 4 quarters, 8 minutes each quarter, so it's a 32-minute game. And
that's another reason why the fans like it, as well as the contact. It's very high scoring, and it's the pace just keeps going and going and going, which is, it's not like soccer where you're waiting for someone to score. It's up and down.
sorry.
Mark, one of the things that was about your story is that your friend who was driving the pickup truck that night apparently didn't know what had happened.
Correct.
And then your relationship with him continues. Talk a little bit about that. It's a very moving part of the film.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, it was an accident. It's not like he meant to get in an accident and break my neck, It's been an up and down relationship. There's been 2 years that we'd talk and then 2 years when we wouldn't talk, just because we had separate agendas. We were doing different things in our lives, but the movie's been beneficial in just that relationship. He's my best friend. I talk to him on a regular basis, and I view him as like my brother. So it was hard at first, but as anything, you work towards it, and if that's what you want, then you can repair anything.
Emotionally harder for you or for him?
I would think him. I mean, definitely. Every time he sees me, he has to think, "Oh, look, it's my best friend," and I put him in a wheelchair. So, it's taken a long time for him to just forgive himself. And I think he's done that admirably. It can't be easy. I mean, I have no idea what it must feel like to sit there and look and say, "Oh yeah, I did that to him." But I tell him, "Look, Chris, it's probably the best thing that's ever happened."
One of the most exciting things about the film is that you guys, the relationship with the girls and everything, and that's one of the things that surprises people. Talk a little bit about that, what that's like, what you expect, and then what turns out to happen in some cases.
It's kind of funny. I guess people would look at guys in wheelchairs and think, "Oh, well, they're not gonna pull any good-looking women or what have you." And if you look around, every girl that, like my girlfriend, his wife, they're just pretty smoking girls, and they're cool. They're cool. It's, it's fun at first. It's fun to have an able-bodied guy sit there and look at you and go, damn, look at the chick that he's with.
Yeah.
It's fun because they're in awe to an extent.
Can I say something real quick? Having the girls that we have, they don't see our wheelchairs. They see our personalities. That's why they hang out with us. We're fun, outgoing, and we don't pity ourselves. We don't look down there. We just have moved on, and that's what they love about us. My wife, I'm married, and he's got a girlfriend, just like they said. My wife tells me sometimes she forgets I'm in a wheelchair. Obviously it's there, but the way my attitude is and these guys' attitude is, we forget it's there too, and that's how life's supposed to be.
And if we do use it, we use it for a nice eye line, if you will.
Yeah, and anyone stay shut.
Yeah, go ahead, talk about it.
I was just going to say, he made a good point that I think one of the best things about the movie, and it relates to everything, is that when the movie first starts, everybody looks at us and sees the people in the wheelchairs. And if you stop the movie 2 minutes into it, that's what people would say. There's this guy in a wheelchair with tattoos on his legs, this or that. If you asked them at the end, they wouldn't talk about the wheelchair probably in the first 2 minutes. That wouldn't be one of the first things they'd say. They would know the person. They stop seeing the wheelchair and they realize that there's a person in the wheelchair, and that's what's more important. I think that's what the film does a good job of. They don't just see it as, well, this guy in a wheelchair who does this. They say, this guy who does this, oh yeah, and he's in a wheelchair.
One of the things that occurs to me, because there's part of the film has the competition between Team Canada and Team USA, and the guy who was coaching Team Canada at the time is the super competitive guy, used to be with Team USA. One of the interesting things is that people's personalities don't change that much necessarily. If they're very competitive, I called him like the great Santini in a wheelchair in my article, and people remain the same, don't they?
Yeah, he definitely remained competitive like we all are. I think the problem we all had was there's just a right way of doing things, and that we were all at that same tryout, and all of us actually got cut at that same tryout in Sydney for 2000. And if he was thinking about the U.S. instead of himself, he would have maybe tried to be an assistant coach, worked his way up, and then he's applying to be U.S. coach now. If he had done it the right way and been an assistant to the U.S. instead of bailing to Canada, he'd probably be the U.S. coach now.
What surprises you about play itself? How athletic were you before, and what kind of an athlete are you in the rugby thing? How would you describe yourself?
I think we were all athletic before, and I think that's one of the big draws of rugby is when you become a quadriplegic, it doesn't mean you don't want to play sports anymore. You still miss the physical sports and the competitive nature of it. And so, I played high school football before, and I like the contact. That's one of my favorite things about the sport is it's rough and it's violent, and I kind of like that, and I like the competitive nature of it. It's not, it's the one too where in the community a lot of times people can see you as fragile, and on the court, it's take no prisoners.
Anybody else have comments about that?
I guess Andy pretty much hit it on the head with that. We're all athletes. The only reason I'm alive is because I was an athlete. But being an athlete beforehand helps us we wouldn't be in the situations we are now, just for the fact of playing for on the Paralympic rugby team. We wouldn't. There's pretty much every person that was on the team was an athlete in some capacity beforehand. It's just, it's a natural instinct, just to catch, to run, to do whatever. But sport is, sport's what pretty much, I think, changed all of our lives. Rugby added that thing that you might have been missing right after you got hurt. Just the drive, the competitiveness, the camaraderie, meeting people. It's been fun.
We take being athletes to a whole new level. The reason why I say that is that before we were athletes, and we had our natural talents. We could do this, go run up and down the field fast, so you catch anything, you throw it as hard as you want it. Now, we're paralyzed in an accident, and now we have some limitations, and we're playing this game, and we're working with our limitations to, as well as being great athletes at the same time, and it's wild to see, people adapt their game around their disability. And one last thing, what's really cool is that if a mom came to me today and said, "Hey, my son was injured yesterday. I want him to play wheelchair rugby, and I want him to be good at it in 6 months," there's no way. He wouldn't be good at it until 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. I've been playing for 10 years, and I'm still have yet to master it. And I've been cut from several national teams. And it's not one of those sports that you can just hop in a wheelchair and go, you know what, I can go up and down the court, pass, catch. There's a lot of strategy to it. And there's plays, there's wheelchair skills, and there's a lot involved in it. And it's cool to see all of us come this far and what we can really do with this sport.
Finally, each one of you talk about what surprised you about the filmmaking process and what it was like to make this film, and moments that you remember yourself about the film itself that surprised you.
For me, I'll wait till. Okay. For me, it was how they got all these personalities to flow together, and the way this movie is done is just amazing. They took something that I thought would never happen and turned it into something is amazing, and they actually turned into being our good friends, the directors. In the beginning, we were all a little fishy and wondering what's going on, and within a year, we were good friends with them, and we had a lot of trust in them, and they had a lot of trust in us, and we all worked well together and got it done. And I commend them on that.
I guess what was interesting to me about the film, they took 3 plot lines. Plotline of me, Joe, and Keith, and interwove them so nicely. There's a connection between Joe and I, and there's a connection between Keith and I, and it kind of was old school nowadays, and then maybe the new and up and coming. But what they were able to do was they were able to take, they had 400 and some hours of footage, and they depicted our lives as how it is. They'd shoot some stuff, and you're sitting there going, man, why are you shooting that? And you see it on film, you're like, oh, that's why. You know what the hell you're doing. So it was fun. I mean, it blew my mind just to see what they put on. I mean, the music's awesome, the editing's awesome, and like I said, they depict our lives as it is. So it was fun.
I think my favorite thing, or thing I like most about the movie, is it didn't fall into any of the traps or the stereotypes about people in wheelchairs. It never gets cheesy, it never gets melodramatic, and it's never pity. And just everything you ever see in the media about somebody in a wheelchair, somebody actually in a wheelchair goes, oh God, that's horrible. Or, oh God, why would they do that? Or, that's just not real. It's not sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. It's not doing whatever you always see in movies where people are just freaking out about it. There's really a normalcy of being in a wheelchair that's lost in the media. I think that they did a great job of just showing how normal and how normal it is.
Thanks, guys. Thanks an awful lot. I really enjoyed the film.